Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for another video, and I am back with another episode of the Jess-umentary. Now, if you don't know what the Jess-umentary is, the idea is very simple. I am about to introduce you to Jessica Howard, who is a 17-year-old schoolgirl from the Wiltshire area who is basically taking one step at a time, becoming the greatest magician of all time, going from literally never having performed professionally to going and doing gigs and getting inquiries and getting bookings, and we're going through every single step. And she's doing amazing. And there's a playlist on my YouTube channel called the Jess-umentary, and you can go and look at all the past episodes. And if you are serious about becoming a professional magician, you absolutely want to check them out, because really, really what we have here is a blueprint to success and how to actually lay the foundations and how to actually go from uh, here to here, and all the steps that you need to follow. But enough about that. Jess, how are you? How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, really good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm a box of fluffy ducks, Jess, to be perfectly honest. But I want to talk all
Amazing.
about you. I want to talk all about you. And we normally start with business and social media and what we're going to do to get more inquiries and how many inquiries you've had and how the web. Forget all that, because when you're running a magic business, there's two parts to it. There's the business side, which we spent a lot of time talking about, but there's also the performing thing and the magic side, actually delivering the final thing. And you've done a lot of performing recently on stage, so I thought we could talk about that. And what we've done is obviously Ryland and Thea a couple of weeks ago had their show Magic and Mischief, and the first half had some very, very exciting acts. Thomas Maloney compared. You had Nia Evans. You had Harry and Emma from the Magic Bar Live, obviously, but you also had the person who was opening the show, and that's you. You lit and to be clear, the reason, and I genuinely mean this, the reason I had you open the show is because I really wanted there to be like a high impact, high energy opening that kind of grabbed people's attention, lots of visual moments of magic. And I just knew from speaking to you that that was what your act was going to deliver. And it did. And then
Thank
some.
you.
And we've filmed it. I haven't got the footage yet. It's currently being edited, but as soon as I get the footage, I'll be sending it over to you, and hopefully we can show it to everyone at home as well. But I have to say, the act was phenomenal. You did two shows. You did the afternoon, the matinee show, and then you did the evening show. How do you feel it went? Because you never performed. You have performed on stage before, but you'd never performed that act before, had you? So how did you feel it
Yeah.
went?
Um, I think the evening show went really well. The afternoon, like the first show, I think it was okay. Like I think it started pretty good, but towards the end it started getting because obviously my umbrella broke and then that kind of threw me for the last kind of 30 seconds of the act. But apart from that, I think they're both decent. They definitely weren't perfect, but I think they were good, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, the act is technically very difficult because you've got manipulation and you've got quick change in there, which are two of the most difficult styles of magic you can do. You're combining the two of them together. You've got card manipulation, you've got ball manipulation, whilst at the same time being set to do multiple quick changes, whilst doing cane manipulation. And there's a lot going on in that act. Like it's very like if you turn away for like literally 5 seconds, you're going to miss another moment of magic, which
Yeah.
is which is great. But when you're doing a timed, at least in my opinion, excuse me, when you're doing a timed act like that, when you kind of because you've got a track that's running for a certain amount of time, you've got certain beats that you're needing to hit. And if you don't hit that beat, it slows everything else down. So when there's a problem
Yeah.
with an umbrella, for example, you haven't really got time to fix it because it's like, well, the next beat is going to come up in a couple of seconds, so I have to, which is always the problem when you're doing sort of technical, difficult magic with a backing track at the same time. You know that you've got to kind of hit those beats, and it's
Yeah.
hard to hit. But I mean, I agree. I thought the evening show was better. I thought that the act that you did in the evening was better. But I said to you at the time, I thought the matinee show was really good as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, what would you say? Because it was the first time you performed the show, you got to do it twice to a decent sized audience. After doing it twice, what did you learn about the act? Because here's a big piece of advice, and this is something a lot of magicians don't do, and something that I've always tried to do. Whenever you leave a performance, whenever you finish performing, especially when it's something on stage like that, kind of look back and try and be a bit self-critical and say to yourself, right, okay, what worked? What went well? But what could I have done better? What can I have done, especially when you're performing it for the first time? So, in your opinion, what do you think, having performed it from twice at Rugeley, you kind of think, you know what, that could have been better?
Um, I think some of the quick changes could definitely have been better. Um, and I'm starting to work on that at the moment, but on making them better. So that definitely one or two of them, um, they kind of just need remaking so they can be quicker and more hidden.
Hmm.
Because I have like a Nia's dad recorded the second show, so I've been able to watch it, like just mine and Nia's act, not the whole show, but so I've been able to watch back the performance to look through it properly. So I think that definitely could be better. Um, I think some of the card loads and like which I'm doing are taking quite a while in the act. If I could find a way to do them quicker and a bit more out in the open, that could
Hmm.
have been good as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you were stealing the cards from behind the book, weren't you?
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's absolutely fine. But was everything getting stolen from behind the book?
Apart from one silk which was stolen from my pocket. But the
Okay.
problem is with for the first song, obviously I'm wearing my jacket, so
Yes.
I can use the pockets. But the second song, obviously, I'm just in dresses which don't have pockets. So
Mm. So you're
yeah,
having to steal everything really from some sort
yeah,
of table or something. Yeah, I totally get that.
yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, from my point of view, I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. I only had two notes, if you want to hear them. Like
Yes, please. Thank you.
I only had two notes. The first note is from a technical point of view, the card manipulation especially was fantastic. Like you can tell you put a lot of time and effort into that. I mean, you know, that would scare Harry Merlin Piper, I think. That was really, really good. I thought that was incredible. All the manipulation was great. All of that, I thought, yeah, I can see where you're talking about with the quick changes, but the bottom line is, I think that's looking at it like a magician because I was in the sound desk at the back and I was watching the reactions to people. And I think that the reactions that they were giving you to the quick changes were great, especially the one with the vanishing cane.
Oh
That
yeah,
one, I don't think people just they didn't expect that. It just threw them off guard right there. That was my favorite change. They were all good, but that
thank
was
you.
my favorite change. Um, yeah. So my first thought. So I've got a couple of thoughts. My first thought is, and I know nothing about quick change, so I might be completely wrong here. I don't know. But from watching it, the first quick change almost happens when you go out of the wings for a second and then come back
Oh
in.
yeah,
Um, and I think that when you introduce the quick change element of the act, because you're kind of 5 minutes in before the quick changes start to happen or something, probably not 5 minutes, but you're part of the way in before the quick changes start to happen. I think the first quick change should be something where it's just happened, a bit like the one with the vanishing cane, because that's the first moment. That's like a whoa, what? It's kind of a little bit like doing an ambitious card with the deck of cards. And the first time the card comes to the top of the deck, you turn your back on the audience and you turn back and you go, look, it's on top. It's kind of almost like, I mean, no one's going to think you can change your clothes in the wings that fast. But it
yeah,
would be nice if you had that kind of more out in the open. I don't know if you agree or
yeah.
disagree with that, but
That was yeah. That was definitely like the one of the things which was it was very much a compromise doing it like that because originally it was going to be like because the first dress like most of them fall down but the very first dress and a couple of the other ones come well one of the other ones it comes off completely so the plan was to have the confetti and be able to do it like on stage and throw it because yeah, that's just what I would have done. But then when I started, because obviously haven't been practicing with the confetti cannons most of the time, but I did like one practice with a confetti cannon and I realized that it just wasn't enough to kind of hide the change. So it was quite a last minute decision to go off stage to do that change. So I need to think of something to do kind of instead of that.
You kind of, because also I think that the changes should be, the changes should build, absolutely. Like, you don't want to start with your best change. If you've seen Leah Kyle, right? Leah
Yeah,
Kyle, like, she doesn't start with her best change. She starts with, a good change to grab the audience's attention, but then they get better over time. Have you considered going old school? So in my illusion show back in the day when I first started doing illusions, my opening to my show, and the only quick change I've ever done, was my assistant Cat would come out in a black dress, a short black dress, and she'd change into a red dress, and then we'd shove her in a box and put some swords through her. But that was the quick opening, like boom. And we had a quick change made where it literally, it's the black dress and it just pops open, it turns into a red dress. And we went old school with it, and we just got
one of the
a
hoops.
hoop, like the sort of hoop that Ryland was
Yeah,
using in his act when he was doing the floating balloon. We got a hoop like that, and we just had black cloth. Kind of, the hoop went into the black cloth, and it went the entire length of Cat. So what would happen is she would literally step into the hoop, lift the hoop up in the air, shake it, and when she drops the hoop, she's changed the first dress, and the dress would be, she didn't need to do this, but in your point of view, because you're taking the whole dress off, if you did that and the hoop drops, it's hiding the dress because the
yeah,
fabric of the hoop would hide the dress, but also it means that you're doing the change out in full view in the open in front of the audience, but it's also not as good as the other changes that are coming up later on, which I think is important as well. I don't know what you.
yeah. I'd agree. Yeah, maybe not with the hoop because obviously that'll take up quite a lot of space on the stage.
Mhm.
But I think even if it's just like a bit of cloth or something, which because then if I drop that, that will obviously cover it as well. I think that's definitely a fair thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if you just had a cloth that on a stand and you did a third hand, you could lift up and it looks like there's two hands, but there's only one, and you could go or whatever it is you're doing, I don't know, and go
Oh yeah.
and drop it down. I don't know. But that was the first note I had. The second one was, there's a moment near the beginning when you're doing multiplying balls or you're doing ball manipulation. Not the
Yeah.
first set of balls. You do two sets of balls, don't you, at one point?
Yeah.
Um, and then the second set of balls, I might be misremembering this, but the second set of balls, you do some really nice productions with them, really nice routine with it. Do you just drop them on the floor then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the
Yeah.
gimmick dropping on the floor as well?
Yeah. But like the thing is, it's kind of it's a bit cheeky, but basically when I drop the balls, because I'm not using the like silicone ones for this part, I'm using the plastic ones. They all break in half anyway, so it just looks like it's
Ah, right. Okay, so it just looks like the balls are just breaking as they hit the floor.
yeah.
Okay.
Which I don't know
Okay.
whether that's like good or not, but I thought it did the job. So like
Yeah. Again, I looked at it and maybe I'm just thinking of it like a magician. I looked at it and I was like, oh, she's dropped it and people can see there's a half ball there. I didn't realize that all of the balls had split in half. So that might be from I suppose we're going to talk about this later on, but as this is a competition act, from a competition point of view, that might affect marks if they think that you've kind of exposed a gimmick
okay,
and they
yeah,
don't realize that, like, of course I didn't realize that. I've worked with multiplying balls for real years. I mean, I was right at the very back in the sound booth, so maybe, and my eyesight is terrible, so maybe that was something to do with it. But
yeah,
that's just another note that I had. Also, the other note, um, I would spend. Do you spend much time? And I'm not the person to speak to about this, but do you spend much time moving around on stage? Have you rehearsed the moving around element of the act? like the sort of the transitioning from over here over to here, over to here, over to here, because there's a lot of movement on the stage in your act, because there's moments where you have to be over here, and then there's moments where you have to be back over here turning the book, and then over here. Have you practiced that sort of movement side, or is it individual sections, like you've practiced the balls, you practiced the cards, but you kind of haven't really? I don't know. You tell me. Have you spent much time?
I mean, I've practiced when I practice it all together. Obviously, I do practice like moving from the places, but the probably problem with that is where I'm practicing is obviously a lot smaller than the stage, so the movements are a lot smaller compared to what they are when I'm actually performing because I can't find a big enough space to practice with the movement and stuff, like the full movement.
Okay, so I would suggest practicing the movements. And I'll tell you how I got Ryland and Theatre, because they do a lot of routines with. So the multiplying bottles, for example, there's a lot of movement because they're constantly switching sides, and Thea's having to take the bottle and put it over there, and then so there's lots of going back and forth. And how they practiced it, because we were in the same situation, we didn't have a rehearsal studio. So how I got them to practice it is I got them to do it outside, but not take the props with them. I'm like, right, we're going to pantomime this. I want you to pretend there's a table over there with a bottle. I want you to pretend there's a table over there with a bottle. I want you to pretend there's a box behind you and you're putting bottles in there. And I want you to practice moving from here to here. And I want you to practice moving here to here. And I really want you to. So they just had, it didn't take up any space. It was just in a car park in a back garden, but it allowed them to practice the movement, because half the thing when you're performing on stage is moving almost gracefully. And I'm not saying you didn't move gracefully, you move more graceful than I ever will. I walk around like a baby elephant. Um, but like that, when your act is so technically beautiful, and it is, there's some really beautiful moments in the act, and there's some moments that just like made me go, what? Oh no, seriously? Whoa, that's so cool. There's lots of really cool moments in there. I think that you need to practice kind of almost like, right, okay, so this is where my book's going to be. I'm going to pretend my book's here. This is where I'm going to do the first quick change over here. Right. I'm going to and you walk through the act to the music, but thinking about the movement of how to get there and how to get there so it's as graceful as the sleight of hand is, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
Um, and that's something that a lot of people forget to do. A lot of magicians, when they're going on stage for the first time, what they'll do is they'll do what you do when you're practicing close up, which is they'll practice the trick. They'll practice the move. They'll practice it in their bedroom or in a living room on a couch. And when it comes to performing on stage, and they perform on stage for the first time, they haven't actually practiced where everything is and who's moving here and what's moving there. And so what ends up happening is they end up kind of almost getting lost. I remember seeing a magician, kind of, he it was doing his first stage show, and he just didn't have a clue where he was going to stand or what he was going to do, and because he hadn't thought that through. When Ryland went on BGT, I must have spent about 5 hours. Probably you were there because you were there. I must have taken so many hours just basically teaching him how to walk on stage and stand on the X to face the judges. I literally said, right, how you walk on stage, and it is so important, because if it says to the audience, the first impression. It says to the audience what they're going to see with this act. Like, right, if you walk on and you're too um, shy, you walk out shy, you're going to come across as too shy. If you walk out and you look too confident. So it's kind of the same thing with your act. I totally understand where you're coming from in terms of um, um, having no space. But have you tried pantomiming it out? Because it sounds ridiculous and you feel stupid when you're doing it, but it really, really, really does help.
yeah. I'll try that then. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think I have, not for this act, but yeah, I'll try it this week.
Yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. Give it a go. But yeah, I mean that's really the only thing I was thinking of, other than and this has just popped into my head, in terms of, you were talking about being quicker to get the steals on some of the loads. Have you considered having two tables set up and having the book on one table and on the other table having something else on there, whatever it may be? It might even be the cane, because there were moments where you were kind of having to go into the wings. I know in Rugeley you had to go into the wings to get the cane, and then you brought the cane back onto the stage. You want to try and eliminate any especially with the timed act. You want to eliminate any moments where you're going into the wings.
Okay.
Maybe anything that you've got to go into the wings for is set up on the other table, but you can have a savant on that table.
Oh yeah.
And the savant will allow you to grab a lot of the things that you need, because from a layman's point of view, if you're standing behind a book for a period of time and then you come out and you start producing stuff, it's very easy for them to kind of get two and two together and to get four. And it's like, right, okay, well, she was standing behind that book and now she's making things appear, especially as it's such a big book. Or have like have you ever seen Oliver Tabor's a competition act? Um,
The contact juggling or a
no,
different
Oliver
one.
Tabor, he does West End Magic.
Mm.
So he's beaten me in every competition we've been in together. He's got this beautiful music themed act. Have you ever seen this?
I think I've seen him do some act, but I don't know if it's the same because
Okay,
he
his
had contact
competition,
juggling,
his
and so I don't know if
competition
it.
act. No, it's not. His
Yeah.
competition act is beautiful. It's all music based, and he ends up producing a cello.
Oh right.
It's amazing, full size cello. But go and watch that act because he's got a book. And first of all, you can learn so much from watching Oliver move around the stage. You really can. You can learn a lot from him doing that. But the other thing is he's got a book and it's kind of on a plinth or a stand. And it's kind of center stage because that is the focal point of your act, that book, right? So if you kind of had it on center stage or you had it to the side, it wouldn't look, because it's on a table, it looks like you could potentially steal stuff from there. And there's moments in the act where you're kind of standing there for a couple of seconds waiting for that next beat. And you want to kind of eliminate being behind there. If you're stealing something from a place, you don't want it to look like you potentially could steal something from there. So, for example, if you're stealing some cards, rather than standing behind there and then coming out and producing the cards, it would be more of a case of you're standing to the side of the book and you're kind of almost leaning on the table, so looking at the audience, and that's when you steal the book. If that kind of that's where you steal, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So you want to hide the moments where the steals actually happen, and you want to kind of misdirect people from seeing them. You never want people to kind of go, well, she stood behind that book for a while, something could have happened. Oh, look, now she's making things appear. And you don't want them to put two and two together and get four. So I would think about the stealing of the objects, and maybe have it on a plinth so it doesn't look like you can steal anything behind there, or have like a smaller table set up, so, or something like that, and then maybe have another table on the other side with a savant, so you're not stealing from the same place every time, because it kind of got to the point where, oh, she's standing behind there and now something else is appearing. She's standing behind there, now something else is appearing. And it's like,
Yeah.
right, okay, you've got this big, massive book hiding something behind a table. But if you had another table with a savant in it, I think that that would misdirect away from the method more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but the technique is brilliant. I mean, those are my only notes. Uh, Other than smile, which is the same advice I always give Ryland. He always forgets to smile. Smile. Just make it look like you're having the best time of your life. Because that's what
Yeah.
the act's all about, right? The act's all about your love of magic and finding the YMC and your journey through YMC and what it's led you to now. So, embrace that, look like you're having the time of your life, because this is such a great concept for an act, and have fun with it. Um, so, to catch people up, you did it at Rugeley. The audience loved it. In fact, did you see the review on it?
Yeah, I think so. The
Did
one, yeah,
the
Sarah sent.
Magic Seats
I
left
can't
a
remember who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and they specifically said how fantastic you were. Professional reviewer in the audience came and watched the show and said how amazing you are. So,
Mm.
what I mean, and the audience, when they left, they loved you, which is great. Um, So then you went and did the YMC competition. So for those of people that don't know, the YMC is the Young Magicians Club. It's the Magic Circle's youth initiative. And people from 10 to 18 can attend, and there's workshops, and it's run by Harry De La Cruz and Ed Hilson. And those two guys are absolutely amazing, and they organize lots and lots and lots of wonderful workshops. And once a year, you have J Day, which is the convention just for the people that attend the Young Magicians Club. And it's one of the best conventions in the world. You have dealers. This year, I believe you've got Lloyd Barnes and Jackie Yu. I mean, come on. That's just ridiculous. Oh my. So you got Lloyd and Jackie. Um, but you also obviously have the stage competition for the Stage Magician of the Year, the Young Stage Magician of the Year, and the Young Close-Up Magician of the Year. And you entered, did you enter close up and stage or just close up, just stage?
I mean, I entered close up, but I made the act like the night before because I was so focused on the stage.
Well, the stage was the most important thing, right? So
Yeah,
you entered, and the auditions were on Saturday. No, Sunday, Saturday, one of them.
Saturday. Yeah.
Saturday just gone. In London at the Magic Circle headquarters. Uh, some phenomenal acts. Like I was looking at the email of people who were auditioning, and it's like, well, Arabella Crawford. I mean, she's the goat, right?
Yeah.
You've got people like Jack Ranger Walsh, who's just like one of my favorite magicians to watch ever. And I'm like, wow, that's a very strong lineup. Do you want to tell us what happened and how it all went?
Uh, well, I entered the stage competition. I did the act, and I got through.
That's amazing. That's brilliant. That is absolutely awesome. And it just shows how amazing the act is. So you're through to the finals of the Young Magician of the Year. And this is going to be your final YMC because you turn 18 at around about the same time. So you're
Yeah.
leaving the YMC. Wouldn't it be amazing to just be crowned Young Magician of the Year right at the very end of your journey in the YMC with an act that talks about your journey in the YMC? That's
I mean,
amazing.
it would be good.
It'd be
Tough
poetic.
competition though.
So, first of all, how did it go? Obviously, it went well because there were like 18 amazing acts and you got through. And only six went through, so it went brilliantly. But what did you change anything from Rougeley? Did that experience at Rougeley make you go, okay, I'm going to do that differently? And how did the act go at the Circle?
Um, I mean, obviously, I changed words in the book, but that doesn't really count as changing stuff in the act. But I didn't really change much, to be honest, because I didn't have time to change much because I had to practice it and I had school and stuff. So I just kept it the same for the auditions. But I've got some things which I'm well, not necessarily the magic, but there's some bits which are going to be changed for the finals. But the act itself, it went horribly the first half did because the
Why?
second half went really well because but the first half I've never had the timing off when I'm practicing, but I had the timing off from the very start of the song, so I kept missing the beats that I'd kind of planned in. But I managed to get it back by the end of the first song, and then yeah, but it was
Man.
okay in the end.
That's when you know that you're a pro, that you can be like completely out on timing to a backup track, to a track that's like running, and you know that it, and you can just kind of bring it back into, you can kind of have that internal, almost that internal dialogue of, okay, this is completely screwed. I need to bring this back. I need to bring this back. Great. So the second half went really well, which is the half with all of the quick changes and everything. The first half is
Yeah.
kind of a slower, more sort of methodical sort of build up to the second half, which is then quite in your face, like blah. Fantastic. So, um, did you get feedback from any of the judges?
Yeah. We had like an email just with the feedback on. It's not loading. Let me just find it.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Can
they
you share? Do you want to share?
yeah,
No.
all of it or just like the highlights.
Just the highlights or all of it, whatever you prefer, whichever's best.
They said that they could see I was a little nervous at the start and that they would be too with all the manipulations in the beginning. But that my confidence kept growing with every minute and the magic, music, and the theme of memories were really powerful and wonderful. Your act was crammed in capital letters, full of magic, and magical moments and costume changes. If I say there was almost too much, please pay attention to the word almost. Your energy and enthusiasm were what made the act wonderful, so don't remove or change bits. Just try and find the time between the effects to have fun and enjoy it. Have confidence that it is a great act. Just really enjoy it, and your audience will enjoy it too.
Mm. And how do you feel about that? Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I was, yeah, because it was obviously it was running quite late for competition, and it was really hot in the theatre. So I was been like, I was been in my dresses for like a couple of hours, which is, oh, so my
And
hands were a bit
that
sweaty
magic
when I was
circle
starting.
stage is
So
so hot, isn't it?
it
Like
is. I could not believe it. It's been a while, but yeah, my hands were quite sweaty for the first like ball manipulation. So that was quite. It was. I just about managed to do it, but it was quite difficult because it's hard enough with nice dry hands, but with moist hands, it's even worse. But
I can only imagine how difficult that is. Yeah.
yeah, but but I managed to. Yeah, so that got it off a bit, but yeah, so I was obviously a bit nervous from that, and then I just I just kept it going, and but I'd agree that I could have probably enjoyed it a bit more when I was doing it because yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Did you feel like, oh my God, I just need to get through this. I need to get through this. I mean, the problem is it's very easy to be nervous in any given situation. I know you were nervous at Rugeley. I couldn't see those nerves. It was very good the way you managed to hide them. And I saw you backstage with your mom just before it, and you were like, oh, I've got to get this, you know,
One of the poppers came off the dress you were that was
yeah.
not fun.
But
But yeah.
and what's even worse is obviously at J Day you can't have J Day at the YMC you can't have your mom backstage with you, so
No. Yeah.
you're like on your own, right? It's just like
Yeah.
I haven't got my wing woman with me. Yeah, but I mean it's one of the most nerve-wracking things in the world is performing for magicians.
Yeah.
It really is. It's one of the most nerve-wracking things you'll ever do. I'm never get used to performing to magicians. I was speaking to Russ Stevens and Russ Brown the other week, you know, who run the Blackpool Magic Convention, and we were talking about compares that have compared the gala show over the previous years. And I said to them, there's no amount of money in the world that would make me compare on a gala show at Blackpool. I just would never ever do it because you just know that you've got people in the audience judging you. Now you don't actually get that at YMC because everybody is really supportive. Generally, I've noticed that about the YMC. Everyone's really supportive.
Yeah.
What was the audience like that you were performing to? Was it good or were they okay or is it can be
I
a bit
mean,
depth? Because
it's
the
been
reason I ask is because Ryland was first on in the stage. Ryland and Thea were first on in the stage competition, and I was like, "How did it go?" And they were like, "It was like I think it went well, but the audience was a bit dead. I don't know if it was
yeah.
because I was the first act on, but he said he described them as dead. It's like they were just sitting on the hands, like I was doing stuff that I do in a normal show, and they're like, "Whoa!" and they were just sitting there like watching, and it almost threw me off a bit.
Yeah. No, I was going to say exactly the same thing. The audience was quite dead, but they were for everyone's act. I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of maybe didn't look like I was enjoying it as much as I could have been. Because like
Mm.
it's like I've just done something that like so I've been working on for like months and months, and there wasn't even a just
Everyone was
silence.
just sitting on their hands, just
Yeah. It's
yeah.
normally a bit better for the like actual uh finals because there's more people and like everyone's happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, you
Yeah.
got through. You got through, which is incredible. One other thing, or two other things. I'm guessing as you threw the close up, I didn't even know you were in close up. I'm guessing as you threw that together the night before, you didn't go through in close up, especially as I know there were
No.
people like Rafferty Cooper there who,
Yeah.
you know, he's an
I mean,
amazing.
lots of amazing people who spent like, even people you've mentioned earlier were in close up, who had spent more time on their act didn't get through because it was a tough competition as well, close up. But yeah, quite nice. It would have been a nice act, my close up act, if I spent a bit more time on it. But yeah.
Oh, that's fine. You got through. And one other question, you said that there's things that you're going to change for the finals. Obviously, the finals are in about a month. You've got 4 weeks. What are you planning on changing? What are you wanting to hope to do for the act before you?
Um, so this is not this is the first thing is going to be no different to like probably to what people will see, but I'm going to remake the last two dresses because you're not they're like completely broken. They're held together by safety pins, and I'm going to try making like I went to the high street before we called this afternoon to the fabrics shop. So I'm going to spend a week or so trying to make one from scratch. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go back to what I've done before. But the last two dresses, they really do need remaking a bit to a higher standard because for both shows, they were very almost, like a couple of days before Rudgley, I had like a plan B in place, like where I was just going to do one quick change less with a different end dress and everything because they just were completely broken. But I managed to get them just about safety pinned together in time, but they're not gonna, yeah,
Oh my gosh. Yes. You want to make sure that's that. Yeah. Well, let's remake those. You don't want anything to go wrong with that. That's like the big thing, right? Okay. Cool. Unfortunately, that's one of the things I can't help with because I know
yeah,
nothing about quick change at all. Um, but I could put you in touch with Danny Hunt. Danny knows a lot. But okay, so you're
yeah.
going to remake the dresses. What else are you?
Um, this is like a very slight thing, but I was talking to my friend who is in the closer competition, and he was saying there, and I agree. For the start of the second song, um, I could be a bit. I'm doing with the manipulation. I'm moving the like bottom of my arms a lot, but my the top of my arms are very kind of in one place, so
Mhm.
I could kind of feel the music a bit more, do a bit more movement in that first bit. Only very slightly, but don't go too over the top. But it could do with a bit more movement for that. Moving around the stage, that's something you mentioned earlier. I was just thinking I would not necessarily I wasn't thinking obviously I will work on that now you've said it, but I just think I need to be a bit more free with some of my movements as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, just practice, just like picking something up or practice just well, all the movements that you do in your act, just try to make them look as natural as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. I think that would go. Especially because there's three marking criteria, aren't there, in the competition? You've got presentation, you've got entertainment,
And magical content.
magical content. Well, magical content. I mean, I can't imagine there's anybody in that bloody competition that's got as much magical content as you. You know, every 3 seconds there's something else happening. Um, um, and entertainment is good. So presentation is the thing, working on the movement and working on all that side of things and how the stage is presented and everything. I think that will really bring that grade up on that one. Yeah,
Mm,
right.
yeah.
Anything else?
Um, Let me just think a second. Uh, Very minor thing, but I probably will slow down with the talking of the song. Even though in the YMC version of the act, I'm only talking for like 10 seconds. I think I could do with slowing down a little bit on there because it I have been rushing a bit because I just don't want to accidentally get to a point in the music where I need to have ended the talking. But I think with a bit more practice of adding the talking in, that could be a little bit better just to be a strong start. Um, um, I can't remember now. I think that was about it, what I thought about so far.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, the bottom line is you're in the top six. You're in the finals. That's very exciting. That's very, very exciting. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it again because I'll be at J Day. So I can't wait to watch it again.
Nice.
It's exciting. It's exciting. Great stuff. So carry on working on that. I want to spend the last sort of 15 minutes talking to you about restaurants, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously, one thing that I know that I would like to see you doing is kind of maybe we need to push towards getting more restaurant work. I know that we've got the website set up. I know that we've got We're working on the SEO. We're working on the Google My Business. We're working on review strategy. We can pick that up again next week. But one thing that restaurants will do is it's regular work, allows you to build up word of mouth in your local area, get loads of people to know who you are, what you do. Restaurant work is a great way to build up the reviews on your Google My Business and on your Facebook because you can literally, I've told you about the review cards, haven't I? You can
Yeah.
literally use those review cards to get reviews from people in the restaurants there and then. You can do a restaurant for a couple of hours and you can get like 10 or 15 reviews very easily for your company. So it's a great way to pick up reviews. And we're going to spend more time talking about restaurants later. But let me explain the kind of the process. So I've done hundreds of restaurants over the years, like hundreds of them, and um, I I find it very easy to get a restaurant residency. I think if I picked up if I spent a day doing it, I could probably get two or three restaurants. So I've got a system that just works that I've refined over years, and the system starts with research. So what you do first of all is you're going to do some research into the type of restaurants that you want to go and visit, that you would like to perform in, and geographically, and also the type of restaurant. Now, it's easier, I'll tell you this straight off the bat, it's easier to get restaurant residencies in restaurants that focus on family restaurants. You know, like Hungry Horse and those sort of places, like, like places that have, a big sort of emphasis on kids and parents, not kids restaurants, but family restaurants where you go in and you take a family. Yeah, it's easier to get a
Yeah.
restaurant residency there than it is something that really just works for adults. But you can do both. But the key thing, first of all, and this is a question you need to ask yourself, the key thing, first of all, is to decide what type of restaurant you want to work in. So, I've had this conversation with kids show entertainers, kids performers, and I've always said to them, focus on family restaurants because one of the things that you're going to get from working restaurants is you're going to get lots of repeat work, and you're going to get lots of people going, oh, can I have a business card, or oh, you're available for this date. If you're a kids entertainer going into a family restaurant, you can get lots of people that will want to book you for birthday parties and so on and so forth. Excuse me, if you work predominantly corporates, then you want to go into a kind of a restaurant that's really kind of more for sort of adults, or it attracts corporates and people that are in the area for a conference or whatever. So you have to think about the type of restaurant that you want to go for. Okay. And it's a slightly different pitch for each one. And it's also tied into your website because they and your social media because they will do research on you. And saying to people, if you're saying to me, for example, I want to do a restaurant where it's all corporates, they will do some research on you. And if you don't look like the sort of person that's visiting corporates on a regular basis, then that might go against you, right? So you need to think that through. So that's step one. Think about the type of restaurant that you want to work in. Then when you've done that, you want to set up a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet, very, very simply, is going to have a few columns. The first column is going to have a date, and that's going to be the date that you kind of spoke to them initially, or the date that you put the restaurant on the spreadsheet. Then you're going to have first name and last name, so the name of the manager, or you're just going to have manager's name. You're going to have an email address. In other words, you're going to have the manager's email address, phone number. So you're going to have the manager's phone number. You're going to have the name of the restaurant, and you're going to have the postcode for the restaurants. Okay, so it's going to go date, manager's name, email address, phone number, restaurant name, restaurant postcode. That's going to give you all the information that you need. Now, after that, you're going to have another couple of columns. One is it's going to say next action. Um, and then yeah, actually, you just need one, which is going to say next action. Okay.
Okay.
So you've got that spreadsheet. Once you've got the spreadsheet, you're going to fill it up. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill it up with names of restaurants. Don't worry about getting managers' names right now. Look for restaurants. So this is where your Googling skills will come in. You're going to go onto Google and you're going to set like a parameter in terms of travel. How far are you prepared to travel to do these restaurants? You can get them absolutely anywhere. Some people think, oh, you can only get restaurants in city centres or town centres. That's not true. I've had a ton of restaurants outside of town centres and city centres. But you're gonna and don't worry about whether they're. Do you know the difference, by the way, between a managed house and sort of an owned restaurant?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah, kind of.
yeah. So if it's an owned restaurant, it means that it's owned by somebody. It's an owner. Now, the owner might have a couple of restaurants or two or three restaurants, or might just have that restaurant. But if it's owned by an individual or a couple or something like that, that's an owned restaurant. That's a restaurant that's owned. It's a sole trader or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it's somebody owns that restaurant. A managed house is part of a big group. So, for example, again, we talked about Hungry Horse, TGI Fridays, Frankie and Benny's, all the places like this, they're all part of managed houses. So, in other words, they're part of a big group. And this group probably has hundreds of restaurants all over the UK or all over a particular area. And there'll probably be an area manager that looks after a certain amount of restaurants. And the restaurant is managed by somebody. It's not their restaurant, they don't own it, but they're employed to manage it. And they answer to the area manager, and the area manager answers to the company that owns the restaurants, right? I don't want you to worry too much right now when you're putting this spreadsheet together. I don't want you to worry too much about whether it's a managed house or whether it's an owned restaurant. Don't let that dissuade you one way or another. But there's pros and cons for both. So the advantage of a managed house is if you can get in with that restaurant manager, it's very easy to keep that restaurant for a very, very long time because it's not that manager's money that they're playing with. So if they say we're going to pay you so much a week to come in and work in our restaurant and do magic, they won't even see that money come out. I've worked in restaurants, so I had a restaurant called the One and Two Halves that I used to go to every Thursday night, and it was in Birmingham. And every Thursday night I had this restaurant, and I was put in place there by a manager who managed the restaurant, and they left and another manager came in. Now the problem is, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but with a managed house, when another manager comes in, a lot of the time you'll lose that restaurant, not because you've not been doing a good job, but because if that manager comes in, they want to show that they're making a big change to that restaurant. And one of the ways that they can make a big change is by reducing by making more money for the restaurant. And one of the ways to make more profit or more money for the restaurant is to reduce expenses. So if they know nothing about you and they've never seen you before and they've just inherited this restaurant and they look through all the expenses and they go, well, hang on a minute. What's this magic Jess that we're paying? Who's that? Oh, she's the magician that comes in every Thursday. Really? Oh, get rid of her. You can lose that restaurant. That's one of the negatives of a managed house. You can build up a great relationship with the restaurant manager, but if that restaurant manager ever leaves, unless the new manager that comes in understands how good magic can be for that restaurant, you might lose it, right? But this One and Two Halves, they left. This new manager came in and I just carried on coming in on a Thursday, and I was just like, yeah, coming in on a Thursday, and they were just like, hi, and for years, like I would just be in there. They never knew they were paying me. Like they said a couple of times, like, oh, it's so nice that you come in on a Thursday and you like do magic for everybody. It's such a nice thing to do. And I'm like, well, you paying me. But because I was invoicing the head office and they were just paying me directly into my company bank account, and because they weren't really paying close attention to their income and outgoings and profit and loss accounts and so on and so forth, they just didn't even realize they were paying me. And I never lost the restaurant. I just stopped doing it because I was getting too busy to do it. So I just said to them one day, I'm not going to come in anymore. Thanks very much for having me. Yeah. I was there for like about 8 years, and for half of the time they didn't even know they were paying me. Um, so one of the advantages of going into a managed house is the restaurant manager, unless that restaurant manager is under the kibosh and he's got a boss that's saying you need to save money in this restaurant, unless that's happening, if you can get in with that restaurant, there's a very good chance that you'll just stay there forever, or until somebody else comes in, which can happen. Um, um, the disadvantage is what I just told you. If that restaurant manager leaves and a new restaurant manager comes in, it's very easy for them to get rid of you because you haven't built up a relationship with that new manager. And so they come in, and if their goal is to come in and reduce expenses in that restaurant, the first thing they're going to do is going to get rid of you. Now, a own an owned restaurant, somebody that owns a restaurant, if you get in with them, they've normally seriously considered that, and they're like, no, I think this is going to be a great way to build up business for my restaurant. Um, and they will be very, very loyal to you, and you can build up a great relationship with them, but they're the ones that are personally paying you. So if the restaurant, if the magic isn't delivering what you promised that you would deliver, there's more chance of losing it, right? Because it's their money that's on the line. It's physically their money. It's not like the manager in a managed house is paying you money out their pocket. A restaurant, an owned restaurant, that owner is literally paying you money out of their own pocket. So if you go in, for example, on a Friday and you've got a restaurant residency where you go in every Friday, and then one Friday it's dead and you're there standing around because no one's in, and you've only got like four tables and you've stood around, they still have to pay you the money, and they're thinking, well, why? I've just spent all my profits on a magician who's not really done much, So you need to make sure this you need to make sure that you're delivering what you said that you were going to deliver, and this is a really important business lesson, Jess, which is over promise, sorry, under promise and over deliver. So, in other words, if you go into a restaurant when you're doing the initial pitch and you turn around to the restaurant and say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to make whatever day you have in this restaurant the busiest day of the week. You're going to have people flooding through your door to watch magic in your restaurant. You're going to be selling more food and selling more drinks than ever before. Everyone's going to be loving it. It's going to be the busiest restaurants of all time. Everyone's going to have an amazing time. If you say that and a month in, that's not happening, that's not good. They're going to go, well, hang on a minute, it's not doing what they said they did. I'll stop paying them and having them in here because it's not doing what they promised me it would do. And this is the same in any type of business. You've got to under promise and over deliver. Think about a magic trick. When you buy a magic trick, it's the same thing. If you were promised the earth, if it was like the most amazing trick of all time, even if it was a good trick, but it didn't hit those points that you were told on, you'd be feeling a bit disappointed about it, right? So, in any scenario, in any business, you need to under promise and over deliver. So, when you're going in and you're pitching these restaurants, you want to be, I always used to say stuff like, you know what? And we'll talk more about this later on and more about this next week. But I used to say, hey, if you're wanting more customers on this night, I can do that. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's not going to happen overnight because we need to promote the fact that you've got restaurants in your we got to promote that you've got magic in your restaurants. So, you can't do this overnight. We're going to have to get the word out, and we're going to have to promote it on social media and word of mouth and so on and so forth. So that when I go in there, they're not expecting results straight away. They're not expecting results straight away. Under promise, over deliver. I'm getting distracted. That's important. Um, but that's the difference between the two houses. It's worth looking at both of them, but be aware because the pitch will be slightly different depending on one or the other. But yeah, so you're going to fill in this spreadsheet, right? And you're going to fill in this spreadsheet, and what you're going to do is you're going to go on Google and you're going to look for restaurants that you think that would work really well for you, and you're going to put them into the spreadsheet. Don't worry about the manager's name. Now, some of the restaurants, if you Google restaurants in Wiltshire, for example, or family restaurants in Wiltshire, you're going to see that lots and lots of hits are going to come up. And in some of those hits, there's going to be managers' names. If there is a manager's name, pop it in the spreadsheet, but don't worry about looking around to find it. A lot of the time, you're not going to find a manager's name. Okay. Um, one point on this is if you do want to get into restaurants that aren't family restaurants and you want to get into the sort of restaurants where corporates hang out, the best way to do that is go to is to contact a hotel that has lots of conferences on. So, in other words, delegates from all over the UK, maybe all over the world, are going to come to this hotel because they have corporate packages, they have conferences that are on there, and not just hotels, but like anywhere that runs events, any venue that runs events, right? And what you want to do is you want to ring up that place and you want to say, "Hey, sorry to bother you. I was wondering if you could help me. My name's Jess. I'm booked to come in and I'm booked to come in and be a part of a conference that's happening in 3 or 4 months, and I would like to take some of my best clients out for an intimate dinner, just 5 or 6 people, where I can chat business to them. Can you recommend a few restaurants in the local area near your hotel that I can book a table at? Because we want to kind of get out of the hotel, that's kind of important for me. Which restaurants in the local area would you recommend?" They get that question a lot, and they will recommend to you certain restaurants. Those are the restaurants that corporates hang out in, that because that's the one that's been recommended by the event spaces near you. And if you ring up all of those different event spaces, if you ring up all of those different venues that host corporate conferences, and you ask the same question over and over again, you're going to find there's 6 or 7 restaurants that are going to turn up over and over again. And that's how you find out where all of the corporates hang out. But you're going to fill in this spreadsheet and take your time over this. I'm not going to overload you. We're not going to talk about the pitch right now. We're not going to talk about the next section. We've only got 5 minutes left. We're going to talk. I want you to do this for next time, and then we'll talk about what to do with this. So you're going to build up that spreadsheet. There's no such thing as not as too many names on that spreadsheet. When I first did this, I'd had 500 restaurants. Because the thing is, right, what we're going to do next week is I'm going to talk to you about how the process works of pitching those restaurants and getting those restaurants to not just see you, but book you. Right. And that sales process, any sales process, works to a law of averages. Now, different industries have different law of averages. The law of averages I typically find that with restaurants, the law of averages is about 1 in 10. It's about 10%. So, in other words, what that means is if you speak to 10 restaurants, you will probably get one that will book you as a residency. If you speak to 20 restaurants, you'll get two that will book you as a residency, right? It's the law of averages. Every salesperson will tell you about the law of averages, and it just works. Imagine this. Imagine, Jess, if you walked into a room and there were 100 boxes all over the floor, and I said to you, 10 of those boxes has 100 quid in it. You get to open 10 of them. Now, if there's 100 boxes in a room and 10 of them have got 100 quid in, the rest of them are empty. If you opened up 10 boxes, there's very possibly you're going to open up 10 and they're going to be empty. That's likely because there's 90 that are empty, right? You're going to open up 10 boxes and 10 of them are empty. You could open up 10 boxes and one of them has £100 in. You could open up 10 boxes and all 10 of them have £100 in each one. Unlikely, but it's possible. Statistically, it is possible. But there's one thing that you do know, Jess. If you open up every single one of those boxes, you're going to find £1,000 because you know that there's 10 boxes out there. You just don't know when they're going to turn up. That is the sales process. That is the law of averages. When I worked in sales, and I used to run my own sales and marketing company, when I worked in sales, I would tell all my sales guys, you need to speak to 100 people a day. Because if you speak to 100 people a day, you're going to get 10 sales. If you speak to 100 people a day. Now, just because you're going to speak to 100 people a day, the 10 I used to do this. This is how I used to do sales. I'd speak to 100 people a day, and I knew I'd get 10 people. Sometimes I got more, sometimes I got less. It averaged out at 10 a day. And sometimes I'd end up with I'd be going for like 3 or 4 hours, and I'd spoken to 50 people, and nobody bought what I was trying to sell. But at the end, they all came in at the same time. And that's the other thing. You got to keep your attitude. In sales, you got to have an excited attitude. When we talk next week about how to actually sell these people on having you in the restaurants, you've got to be excited. If I just turn up and I go, Hi, my name's Craig. I do magic. I'd like to come and do some magic in your restaurant. I think it'd be really good. You're gonna lose it completely. It's kind of more like this. Hey, how you doing? My name's Craig, and I am a professional magician. I am coming here today to let you know that I am the best thing that you could possibly imagine to have at your restaurant. And let me tell you why. It's like putting on a show. It's about coming across as excited. It's about coming across as excited, eye contact, excitement, right? That's basically the sales process. The problem with a lot of salespeople is what happens is if they get a lot of no's, they start to get a bit fed up. So that when they ring that person that would have said, yes, we want you in a restaurant, because they've rung up and they've gone, yeah, I was wondering if you wanted a magician in your restaurant. They've killed it because their attitude's in the toilet. So you've got to maintain that attitude. We're getting into sales process here, which is a bit heavy. We're going to get into that more next week. The point I'm trying to make is right now, we're going to fill up that spreadsheet with as many people as we possibly can, as many restaurants as we possibly can. When you've built up that spreadsheet, you want to check to make sure what the manager's name is. Now, the best way to do that is to ring up the restaurant, but don't tell them what you're ringing up for. Because if you tell them what you're ringing up for, you're going to have a gatekeeper that will try to fob you off. So what I mean by that is in telesales, not that we're doing telesales, but in telesales, gatekeepers are people that maybe sit on the front desk. They're the receptionist or they're the administrator or whatever the case may be. And their job is to stop you from speaking to the person that makes the decisions because they're busy and they don't want to be disturbed. I have a gatekeeper in my office. If you ring up my office, it's very difficult to get hold of me because I don't want to get sold whatever it is I'm getting sold on a daily basis, right? So I have gatekeepers as well. The key thing is to get past the gatekeepers. We'll get to that next week, but the most important thing is to get that manager's name. So ring up and just go, hey, I was just wondering if I could have the manager's name, please. And they will probably say why. And you say, oh, I was in the restaurant last week and I just want to send them an email and I want to address it. I've got the email address, but I just want to address it to the correct person so the correct person sees it. Um, can I take the manager's name, please? Now they'll probably give you the manager's name at that point. If they don't, they'll go, what can I ask what the email's about? And you go, no, sorry, I just want to discuss this with the manager. It's kind of confidential. Can I have the manager's name, please? Yeah, it's Bob Smith. Brilliant, thank you. Bye. And just do that. Ring off a withheld number, withhold your phone number, ring the restaurant, just say, hey, I need the manager's name, and fill that spreadsheet in with the manager's name. So at the end of this little process here, we have a spreadsheet which has got the name of the restaurant, the manager's name, the postcode of the restaurant, so we know how far away it is, and you've got an email address and you've got a phone number. That is going to be worth more than you can possibly know. Because using that one spreadsheet, you're going to get so many restaurant residencies, you're not going to know what to do with them. But the key thing is take your time over this and get it right. Because you only need to do this once, unless you're wanting to then get restaurants in other areas. You're only going to need to do this once. So take your time over it. Don't rush it. It's a little bit like a McDonald's. I live in the Midlands, and I remember there's a few years ago, we were driving back and forth every day to work past this like disused car parky thing. It used to be a pub, and the pub got knocked down. It was just nothing. And every single day we drove past, and nothing, 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 nothing. There were people working on it, but I didn't know what they were doing. But it was just for weeks and months, people were working on it, but nothing was happening. And then I went away on holiday for a week, and when I came back, there was a bloody McDonald's there, full size McDonald's. And the reason is a lot of the McDonald's, not all of them, but a lot of them are like flat pack. They're like IKEA, but buildings. So they can put them up in literally a couple of days, but the key thing is the foundations. They spent ages getting the foundations right. And then the actual structure of the McDonald's went up in no time at all. And that's the key thing. You get the foundations right, and then the structure doesn't take any time at all. It's like with what we were doing with the website. We were getting all of the bits and pieces right. We were getting the foundations of the website right, and then the website came back up. It's the same thing with this. This spreadsheet is going to be your sales tool that's going to enable you to get a ton of restaurant work. So for next week, carry on with the social media. If you haven't posted on your social media yet about how you've just got through to the finals of the YMC Young Magician of the Year, if I don't see a post like that at some point, I'm going to be very, very upset with you because that is incredible social proof. I have just entered. I have just yeah, I've just qualified for the finals of the Young Magician of the Year at the Magic Circle headquarters with my new stage act. I'm very excited. This is the sort of stuff you need to be sharing on social media. You celebrate the wins. So carry on with the
Yeah.
social media, put a post up. It can be a graphic, it can be you smiling, it can be a video. I don't care, but do something because people are going to. That's six people out of hundreds of young magicians that go to the YMC, whittled down to six, and you're one of the six. That's huge. There's people that will go to the YMC that will never get a chance to be in the final, maybe because they didn't feel like they could put an act together, or they tried to and they couldn't. Celebrate the win, celebrate the win. Great social proof. So get that up on there. Carry on with the social media. Think about the act. Um, get working on the stuff that you need to do for the final next month, and start working on this spreadsheet because this spreadsheet is going to really kind of open the doors to lots of restaurants. I feel like I've just spent the last 40 minutes talking. I'm really sorry. I had a lot to say.
That's good.
I get really passionate about this sort of stuff, and you can't shut me up. Um,
That's good. It's what we need.
yeah. Is there any other questions, Jess?
I don't think so, no.
Den, you are amazing. I can't wait to see your act next month. And I know you're going to
Thank you.
absolutely kill it. And for everybody watching this, make sure you follow Jess on social media if you haven't already done so. If you haven't watched the previous episodes of the Jess-umentary, please go and watch them because she is amazing. And we'll be back very, very soon with another episode of the Jess-umentary. Until then, thank you so much for watching. I'm Craig. This is Jess Howard, and you have been watching the Jess-umentary. See you, Jess.
Bye.